The rain fell hard on the old streets of Neo-Seoul. It was the kind of rain that made people run for cover and close their windows. The sky was gray and heavy, and the water came down in thick sheets that turned the roads into small rivers dot in a quiet corner of the alien district. Between a laundromat that never closed and a noodle shop that always smelled of garlic, there was a small repair shop. The sign above the door said, Yoon's Repairs, in faded blue letters. The paint was old and cracking, but the lights inside were always on. Yoon Tae-ho sat at his workbench, his hands covered in black grease. He was 32 years old, with tired eyes and messy hair that he never bothered to comb. He wore the same gray jacket every day, and his fingers were rough from years of working with machines. Before this shop, Tae-ho had been a military engineer. He had fixed battle robots and war machines for the Korean Space Forces. He had been good at his job, maybe the best. But war had a way of breaking people, and after 10 years, Tae-ho had walked away. Now he fixed broken toys and old computers and whatever else people brought through his door. It was a quiet life. A lonely life. But it was his. The bell above the door made a small sound. Tae-ho did not look up. He was used to customers coming in with their problems. Broken translators, dead hover carts, cheap robots that stopped working after a week. I will be with you in a moment, he said, still looking at the circuit board in his hands. There was no answer. Tae-ho finally looked up. Anna's hands went still. She stood in the doorway, water dripping from her clothes onto his floor. She was small, maybe 5 feet tall, and she wore an oversized hoodie that was much too big for her thin body. A baseball cap sat low on her head, hiding most of her face, but it could not hide everything. Tae-ho could see the scales. They ran down the sides of her neck, shimmering blue like sapphires, even in the dim light of his shop. 2 small horns curved back from her temples, barely visible under the cap. And her eyes, when she finally looked up at him, were gold. Pure gold, with thin black slits for pupils, like a cat. Or a snake. Or something much older. She was crying. The tears rolled down her scaled cheeks and fell to the floor, mixing with the rainwater. In her arms, she held something. A robot, Tae-ho realized. It was shaped like a small fox, no bigger than a house cat. Its body was made of silver metal that had gone dark with age. One of its eyes was cracked, and its legs hung loose and broken. It looked ancient. It looked dead. Mr. Human, she whispered. Her voice was small and shaking. Her Korean was accented. The words formed carefully, like she had practiced them many times. Please, can you repair my robot? Tae-ho stared at her. In 15 years of working with alien technology, he had seen many strange things. He had met the tall, thin Valkyrie with their 4 arms and cold logic. He had worked with the rock-skinned Gorath, who communicated through vibrations. He had even once fixed a device for a Minkeeper, those strange beings made of light and thought. But he had never, not once, seen a Drakone. The dragonkin from the Velar Expanse were legends. They were one of the oldest species in the known galaxy, powerful beyond measure, proud beyond reason. They rarely left their home systems. They certainly never came to Earth, and they absolutely, definitely, never stood crying in small repair shops in the rain. Yet here she was. I am Yoon Tae-ho, he said slowly, carefully. What is your name? Rena. She held the broken fox tighter against her chest. This is Bomi. She was my papa's last gift to me. Before he... Her voice broke. She could not finish the sentence. Tae-ho understood. He had heard enough broken sentences in his life to know what the silence meant. Come inside, he said. You are getting my floor wet. It was not a kind thing to say, but Tae-ho was not good at kindness. He was good at fixing things. That was all he knew how to do. Rena stepped inside, and the door closed behind her. Up close, she looked even younger than he had first thought. Maybe 16, 17 in human years. But Taiho knew that meant nothing. Dragons live for thousands of years. She could be older than his entire country. "Put it on the table," he said, pointing to his workbench. Rina hesitated. She looked at Bomi like a mother looking at a sick child. Then, slowly, carefully, she placed the broken robot on the table. Taiho leaned close and looked at it. The damage was bad. Very bad. The power core was failing, barely giving off any energy. The memory circuits were corroded, eaten away by time. The joints were frozen with rust. And the components, the small pieces that made the robot work, were designs he had never seen before. They were old. 200 years old. Maybe more. This was not human technology. This was not even technology he recognized. This was something else entirely. Something grown as much as built. Something that blurred the line between machine and living thing. "Where did you get this?" Taiho asked. "My papa made her," Rina said quietly. "He built her himself. With his own hands. With his own fire." Taiho looked at the dragon girl. Her golden eyes were fixed on the robot, full of a sadness so deep it made his chest hurt. "Your father was a craftsman?" "My father was Lord Kalen of the Third Flame." Rina's voice carried a strange pride, even through her tears. "He was an elder of my people. He was older than your son. He was the wisest, kindest dragon who ever lived. And he is gone now. He sleeps the final sleep, and he will never wake again." She reached out and touched Bomi's cracked eye with one gentle finger. "This robot is all I have left of him. He put his memories inside her. His voice. His songs. Everything he wanted me to remember. But she stopped working, and no one can fix her. I have traveled to 17 star systems. I have begged every technician, every engineer, every scientist I could find. They all said the same thing. They said it was impossible." She looked up at Taiho and her golden eyes burned with something desperate. "Then I heard about humans. The other species think you are weak. They think you are primitive, small, short-lived. But my papa always said that humans were the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. Do you know why?" Taiho shook his head. "Because you never give up." Rina's voice cracked. "Because you look at impossible things and you try anyway. Because you are too stubborn to know when you have lost." She fell to her knees, right there on his dirty shop floor, and pressed her forehead to the ground. "Please, Mr. Human, please fix my robot. She is all I have. She is everything." Taiho looked at the dragon girl on his floor. He looked at the broken robot on his table. He thought about all the technicians who had turned her away. He thought about the 17 star systems, the begging, the tears. He thought about his own father, dead these 20 years. And the old watch he still kept in his drawer because he could not bear to throw it away. "Get up," Taiho said quietly. "I will look at it." Rina raised her head, hope flickering in her golden eyes. "I am not promising anything," he added quickly. "I have never seen technology like this. I do not know if I can fix it, but I will try." And that, Taiho knew, was the most human thing he could offer. He would try. The days passed slowly in Yoon's repairs. Taiho worked from morning until night, his eyes red and tired, his back sore from bending over his workbench. He studied the broken robot from every angle. He took pictures. He made drawings. He ran every scan and test his equipment could manage. And every day, Rina was there. She sat on his counter with her legs swinging, watching him work with her golden eyes. She asked questions constantly, an endless stream of curiosity that should have annoyed him but somehow did not. "What is that tool called?" "A micro welder." "What does it do?" "It joins small metal pieces together, Why is there fire coming out of it? Because that is how welding works. Can I try? No. She asked about everything. The wires, the circuits, the strange glowing liquids he used to clean components. She asked why humans needed to eat 3 times a day. She asked why they slept for so long. They slept for so long. She asked why Taiho drank so much coffee and whether it was actually bitter bean water like she had heard. It is, Taiho admitted, but it helps me stay awake. Dragons do not need such things, Rena said proudly. We can stay awake for months if we need to. Then why do you fall asleep on my couch every night? Rena's scales flushed a light purple, which Taiho had learned meant she was embarrassed. That is different. Your shop is warm, and the couch is soft, and the sound of your work is peaceful. Taiho did not know what to say to that, so he said nothing. He just went back to work. Slowly over the long evenings, Rena's story came out in small pieces. Her father, Lord Kalen, had been one of the great elders of the Draconith people. He was ancient beyond human understanding, a dragon who had been alive when Earth's first humans were still learning to make fire. He had seen empires rise and fall across 100 worlds. He had watched stars be born and die, but even dragons could not live forever. We live very long, Rena explained one night, her voice soft. Thousands of your years. Tens of thousands for the eldest among us. But there comes a time for every dragon when the fire inside us begins to fade. We call it the final sleep. It is not death, not exactly. But it is an ending. She was sitting on the floor beside his workbench, her knees pulled up to her chest. Bomi lay on the table above her, still and silent. My papa knew his time was coming. He could feel his fire growing cold. So he spent his last years making Bomi. Making her how? Taiho asked. With his own hands. With his own magic. With pieces of himself. Rena's golden eyes grew distant, lost in memory. Dragon crafting is not like human building. We do not just put parts together. We grow them. We breathe life into them. My papa put pieces of his own fire into Bomi. Pieces of his memories. His voice. His songs. She closed her eyes. When I was very small, Papa would sing to me. Every night, before I slept, he would hold me close and sing old dragon lullabies. Songs from before the stars were named. Songs his own father sang to him, and his father before that, going back to the beginning of everything. A tear rolled down her scaled cheek. When he finished making Bomi, he put all those songs inside her. All his memories of me. All the things he wanted to say, but could not find the words for. He said that whenever I missed him, whenever I felt alone, I could ask Bomi to sing, and it would be like he was still there, holding me. Taiho stopped working. He stared at the broken robot with new eyes. It was not just a machine. It was a father's love, given physical form. It was a dying dragon's attempt to reach across death itself and comfort his child. What happened to her? Taiho asked quietly. To Bomi? I do not know. Rena's voice broke. She worked for 300 years. 300 years of songs and stories and memories. Then one morning, she would not wake up. Her eyes went dark. Her voice went silent. I tried everything. I took her to every healer and craftsman in the expanse. They all said the same thing, that it was impossible. Yes. Rena opened her eyes. Draconith technology is different from other species. It is not just mechanical. It is alive. It responds to feelings, to intentions. When my papa died, something in Bomi died with him. The bond that gave her life faded away, and no one in the expanse knows how to restore it. She looked up at Taiho, and for a moment, she did not look like a powerful dragon. She looked like a scared, lonely child who had lost everything. That is why I came to Earth. That is why I came to you. Taiho frowned. I do not understand. Why humans? Your technology is far beyond ours. Because dragons are proud, Rena said simply. We have been powerful for so long that we have forgotten how to struggle. When something breaks, we replace it. When something fails, we move on. We do not know how to fight for things the way humans do. She stood up and walked to the workbench. She placed her small hand on Bomi's cold metal body. My papa studied humans. He found them fascinating. He said that humans were the only species who would spend years trying to save a single sick child. The only species who would cross oceans to keep a promise. The only species who would look at something broken and ruined and dead and say, I can fix this. She turned to Taiho. Other species see a broken machine and ask, what is the logical thing to do? Humans see a broken machine and ask, what can I do? That is the difference. That is why I came here. Taiho was quiet for a long moment. He looked at Bomi. He looked at Rena. He thought about his own life, his own choices, his own reasons for running a repair shop in a forgotten corner of the city. He thought about all the things he had fixed over the years. The toys that children could not bear to throw away. The old radios that grandparents refused to replace. The broken jewelry that carried memories of people long dead. He was not just a repairman. He was a keeper of things that mattered. I cannot promise I will succeed, Taiho said finally. This technology is beyond anything I have ever seen. It might truly be impossible. Rena's eyes dimmed with disappointment. But I promise I will try, Taiho continued. I will try harder than I have ever tried before. I will not sleep. I will not eat. I will work until my hands fall off if I have to. Because your father was right about one thing. He picked up his tools and turned back to the workbench. Humans do not know when to quit. And I am very, very human. Rena stared at him. Then, slowly, a small smile appeared on her face. It was the first time Taiho had seen her smile since she walked into his shop. Thank you, Mr. Taiho. Do not thank me yet. Thank me when I actually fix something. He bent over Bomi and got to work. Outside, the rain had stopped. The clouds were parting. And somewhere in the distance, the first stars of evening were beginning to appear. Rena sat back down on her spot on the floor and watched the human work. She did not know if he would succeed. She did not know if anyone could bring Bomi back. But for the first time in 300 years, she had hoped out, and hope, her papa had always told her, was the most powerful force in any universe. The repair should have been impossible. Taiho knew this. Every test he ran, every scan he completed, every piece of data he gathered told him the same thing. The technology inside Bomi was not meant to be understood by human minds. It was not built with logic or science. It was grown with magic and fire and feelings. Things that did not show up on his instruments. But Taiho had something that no alien species truly understood. He had spite. Pure, burning, stubborn human spite. The kind of spite that made a man climb a mountain just because someone told him he could not. The kind that made a woman run across a desert because everyone said it was too far. The kind that had driven humans out of their caves and into the stars, screaming at the universe that they would not be ignored. Taiho was not working to fix a robot anymore. He was working to prove every single one of those 17 technicians wrong. Day 3. He called his old friend Jisoo. She was a neural interface specialist who worked at the university. A brilliant woman with sharp eyes and no patience for fools. You want me to what? She asked through the video call, her face confused. I need you to look at something. Alien technology. Dragon-made. Dragons are not real, Taiho. Come to my shop, and I will introduce you to one. Jisoo came. She met Rena. She stared at Bomi for a full minute without speaking. This is impossible. she said finally. I know. The circuits are organic. They are alive. Or they were alive. I have never seen anything like this. I know. You cannot fix this with human tools. I know. Taiho crossed his arms. Are you going to help me or not? Jisoo looked at Rena, who was watching them with wide, hopeful eyes. She looked back at Taiho, at the dark circles under his eyes, at the stubborn set of his jaw. You are going to kill yourself trying, are you not? Probably. Jisoo sighed. Fine. I have a neural bridge prototype in my lab. It is designed to connect human brains to machines. Maybe, it can interface with whatever is inside this thing. But I'm not promising anything. That is the motto of this project, Taiho said. No promises. Just attempts. Day 7. Taiho called in more favors. He contacted old military friends, suppliers he had worked with during the war. He needed rare materials. Metals that did not exist on Earth. Power cells that could hold energy for centuries. Components so small they could only be seen with special microscopes. People owed him. He had saved lives during the war. He had fixed machines that kept soldiers alive. Now he collected on every debt. What are you building? One supplier asked him over the phone. A spaceship? Something more important. Day 12. The Velkari merchants came to his shop. They were tall and thin, with 4 arms and cold, logical minds. They had heard about the human trying to fix Draconith technology, and they were curious. It cannot be done, their leader said flatly. We have studied dragon technology for 8,000 years. It is beyond repair once the creator dies. Then I will do what you could not do in 8,000 years, Taiho replied. The Velkari stared at him. Their kind did not understand emotions like pride or determination, but they understood results. We will give you the minerals you need, the leader said finally. In exchange, you will share your findings with us. Success or failure, we wish to know what you discover. Deal. Day 15, Taiho had not slept in 3 days. He survived on coffee and instant noodles and the sheer refusal to give up. His hands shook. His vision blurred. But every time he thought about stopping, he looked at Rena sleeping on his couch. And he kept working. Jisoo found him on day 18, sitting on the floor of his shop at 3 in the morning, tears running down his face. Taiho? She rushed to his side. What happened? What is wrong? I found something. His voice was rough, broken. I was checking Bomi's memory files, trying to see if any data survived. And I found recordings. What kind of recordings? Taiho looked up at her, his eyes red and wet. Her father. He recorded himself. Messages for Rena. Hundreds of them. Birthday wishes. Bedtime songs. Stories about her mother, who died when Rena was young. He knew he was dying, Jisoo. He spent his last years making sure his daughter would have something to hold on to. Jisoo sat down beside him. She did not say anything. She just listened. There is one recording, Taiho continued, made on his last day. His voice is so weak, so tired. But he keeps going. He tells Rena how proud he is of her. He tells her she will do great things. He tells her not to be sad, because he will always be with her inside this robot, waiting to sing her to sleep whenever she needs him. Taiho wiped his face with his greasy hands. A dragon who lived for longer than human civilization. And he spent his last breath making sure his daughter knew she was loved. How can I not fix this? How can I let this fail? Jisoo was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached out and put her hand on his shoulder. What do you need? A miracle. I am fresh out of those. But I have some ideas about that neural bridge. What if we tried connecting it directly to the main power core? The organic circuits might respond to electrical signals if we calibrate them correctly. Taiho looked at her. Then, despite everything, he laughed. It was a tired, broken laugh, but it was real. You know that could cause an explosion, right? Everything worth doing involves a risk of explosion. Jisoo smiled. Now get up. We have work to do. Day 21. The explosion happened. It was not a big one, but it was enough to singe off Taiho's eyebrows and send Rena running from the back room in a panic. Mr. Taiho, are you hurt? Taiho sat on the floor, surrounded by smoke, his face black with soot. Jisoo was coughing beside him, waving her hand to clear the air. I am fine, Taiho said. Your eyebrows are gone. They will grow back. He stood up slowly, looking at the workbench. Bomi was still there, undamaged. And something was different. Something was glowing inside her chest. Wait, look at this. They gathered around the table. Deep inside Bomi's body, a faint light was pulsing. It was weak, barely visible, but it was there. The power core, Jisoo breathed. It is responding. We did something right. Taiha's exhausted face broke into a grin. We actually did something right. Rena stared at the glowing light, her golden eyes filling with tears that she did not bother to hide. Is she waking up? Is Bomi coming back? Not yet, Taiho said. But we are close. We are so close I can feel it. He turned to his workbench, grabbing his tools. We are not stopping now. We are not stopping until she opens her eyes and says hello. Outside, the sun was rising over Neo Seoul. The light came through the shop windows, painting everything gold. And Yoon Taiho, burnt and exhausted and missing his eyebrows, got back to work, because that was the human way. You did not stop until the job was done, no matter what. 3 weeks had passed since Rena first walked into Yoon's repairs. 27 attempts had failed. 27 times, Taiho had tried something new, only to watch it fall apart. 27 times, he had wanted to give up. 27 times, he had looked at Rena and kept going. But today was different. It was a Thursday morning, cold and gray. Frost painted the shop windows with white crystals. The streets outside were quiet, too early for most people to be awake. Inside the shop, Taiho sat at his workbench, his hands steady for the first time in days. This is the last test, Jisoo said quietly. She stood beside him, holding a small device that looked like a glass needle. If this does not work, it will work. Taiho, we should be realistic. We have tried everything. The organic circuits are too degraded. The power core is barely stable. Even if we connect everything perfectly, there is no guarantee that it will work. Jisoo looked at him. She saw the determination in his eyes, the stubborn fire that refused to die. She had known Taiho for 15 years. She had never seen him like this. All right, she said. Let us do it. In the corner of the shop, Rena was curled up on the couch, sleeping. She had been awake for 2 days, watching every test, holding her breath with every attempt. Finally, exhaustion had taken her. She lay with her arms wrapped around herself, her scales dull with fatigue, her face peaceful for the first time in weeks. Taiho looked at her sleeping form. Then he turned back to Bomi. The little fox robot lay on the workbench, surrounded by wires and tools and pieces of equipment. Her silver body had been opened and closed so many times that Taiho knew every piece inside her. He knew her circuits like his own heartbeat. He knew her power core like his own breath. He knew her. And she knew him in some strange way. He was certain of it. Ready? Jisoo asked. Taiho nodded. He picked up his tools and began the final connection. The glass needle slid into Bomi's power core. The neural bridge activated, sending tiny electrical signals through the organic circuits. Taiho watched the readings on his screen, adjusting the power levels with careful precision. for a moment. Nothing happened. Then, deep inside Bomi's chest, the light began to grow. It started as a faint glow, barely visible, but it grew stronger, brighter, pulsing with a rhythm that was almost like a heartbeat. The organic circuits, dead for 300 years, began to warm, began to wake. It is working, Jisoo breathed. Taiho, it is actually working. Taiho did not answer. He was too focused, too concentrated on the delicate work in front of him. One wrong move could destroy everything. He had to be perfect. He had to be precise. The light grew brighter. The power core hummed with energy. And then, with a soft click that sounded like the whole universe holding its breath, Bomi's optical sensor flickered. Once, twice. Then it glowed steady gold. Taiho's hands went still. He watched as the little fox robot lifted her head, her joints moving smoothly for the first time in centuries. She looked around the shop with her single working eye, taking in the strange surroundings with something that almost seemed like curiosity. Then she made a sound. It was a small mechanical chirp, soft and sweet, like a bird greeting the morning sun. It was the most beautiful sound Taiho had ever heard. Rena, he said, his voice rough with emotion. Rena, wake up. The dragon girl stirred on the couch. She opened her golden eyes slowly, still half asleep, not understanding why she was being woken. Then she saw Bomi. The little fox was sitting up on the workbench, her golden eye glowing bright, her tail swishing back and forth. She turned to look at Rena, and she chirped again, a sound full of recognition and joy. Rena's eyes went wide. Her scales, which had been dull with exhaustion, suddenly flushed brilliant violet. It was the Draconith sign of overwhelming emotion, a color that meant joy and grief and love all mixed together into something too powerful for words. Bomi? She whispered. The robot chirped once more. And then her damaged speaker crackled, struggled, and finally produced a voice. It was an old voice, deep and warm and full of love. A voice that carried the weight of thousands of years and the tenderness of a father holding his child. Little star, my little star. Rena made a sound. It was not a word. It was something deeper than words, something that came from her very soul. She stumbled off the couch and fell to her knees beside the workbench, tears streaming down her scaled cheeks. If you are hearing this, the recording continued, then you found someone clever enough to wake Bomi. I knew you would. You were always so determined, just like your mother. Rena reached out with trembling hands. Bomi patted across the workbench on newly repaired legs and pressed her small metal head against Rena's palm. The dragon girl made another broken sound and pulled the robot close, holding her against her chest like a treasure beyond price. I am sorry I could not stay longer. I wanted to see you grow. I wanted to watch you spread your wings and fly to the farthest stars. I wanted to be there for everything. But the fire inside me is fading, and I must sleep soon. Taiho stood frozen by his workbench. He could not move. He could barely breathe. The recording played on, and every word felt like a knife in his heart. Know that I loved you from the moment you hatched. From the first time I held you in my arms and saw your golden eyes looking up at me, I knew that you were the greatest gift the universe had ever given me. You are my daughter, my little star, my everything. Rena was sobbing now, her whole body shaking with the force of her tears. But she did not look away from Bomi. She did not let go. Do not be sad for me. I have lived a long and good life. I have seen wonders beyond counting. I have loved and been loved. And I leave behind you the best part of me to continue on after I am gone. The recording paused. When it continued, the voice was softer, more tired, but no less full of love. Whenever you feel alone, ask Bomi to sing. She has all my songs, all my stories, all my memories of you. And when she sings, know that I am still there with you. I will always be with you, little star. Across time and space and death itself, I will never stop loving you." There was silence. Then Bomi made another chirp, and a soft melody began to play from her speakers. It was a lullaby, ancient and beautiful, sung in a language that Taiho did not understand but felt in his bones. Rena closed her eyes. She held Bomi close and listened to her father's voice singing to her one more time. In the doorway of his shop, Taiho stood completely still. His face was wet with tears. He did not remember crying. His chest hurt with an emotion he could not name. Jishu came up beside him. She did not say anything. She just stood there, watching the dragon girl hold her father's last gift, listening to a lullaby from across the stars. "You did it," she finally whispered. "You actually did it." Taiho shook his head. "I just fixed the machine." Her father did everything else. They stood in silence as the lullaby played on. Outside, the sun was rising over Neo Sol, painting the frost on the windows with golden light, and in a small repair shop in the alien district, a daughter heard her father's voice again. Some things, Taiho realized, were worth any price. Some things were worth the impossible. Some things were worth everything. Word spread fast across the stars. A human repairman had done the impossible. He had fixed Draconith technology that even the Dragonkin could not repair. He had brought a dead machine back to life using nothing but human tools and human stubbornness. Within a week, messages came from across the sector. Scientists wanted to study his methods. Engineers wanted to learn his techniques. Wealthy aliens offered huge amounts of money for his services. Taiho ignored them all. Within a month, visitors started arriving at his shop. They came from distant planets and far-off systems, not just for repairs, but to see the human who had given a grieving dragon girl her father's voice back. They stood outside Yoon's repairs, taking pictures, whispering to each other in languages Taiho did not understand. He put up a sign that said, "No photos," and went back to work. The Valkyrie returned, true to their word, asking for his research notes. Taiho gave them everything: the data, the methods, the failures, the single success. The Valkyrie studied it all with their cold, logical minds, but in the end, they could not explain it. The technique should not have worked, their leader said, his forearms folded in confusion. According to every scientific principle we know, the organic circuits should not have responded to human technology. You did something impossible. Taiho shrugged. Maybe impossible things just need someone too stubborn to care. The Valkyrie did not understand. They never would, but that was fine. Taiho did not do it for them. 3 months after Bomi woke up, Rena came to him with serious eyes. "Mr. Taiho," she said, her voice unusually formal, "I must speak with you." They were sitting in shop, drinking tea that Rena had made. She had gotten quite good at making human tea, though she still added too much sugar. Bomi sat on the counter beside her, eyes glowing steady gold, tail swishing happily. "What is it?" Taiho asked. "I must return to the Velar Expanse soon." Rena looked down at her cup. "I have duties there. Responsibilities to my people. My father was an elder, and I must take his place in the council. I cannot stay on Earth forever." Taiho nodded slowly. He had known this day would come. He had tried not to think about it. "When do you leave?" "Next week." Rena's golden eyes met his. "But before I go, I want to give you something." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small object. It was a pendant, hanging from a delicate silver chain. And in the center of the pendant was a scale. A dragon scale, shimmering blue and purple in the light, warm to the touch. Taiho stared at it. "Rena, I cannot accept this. You must." Her voice was firm, allowing no argument. In my culture, this is the highest honor we can give. A piece of ourselves removed and given to another. It is only done for those we consider true family. She held out the pendant, her small hand steady. You fixed Bomi. You gave me back my papa's voice, his songs, his memories. You gave me back the most precious thing in my entire existence. Among my people, that kind of gift creates a bond that can never be broken. She stood up and walked around the table to stand in front of him. You are my brother now, Yun Taiho. My kin. My family. Whether you like it or not. Taiho looked at the pendant. He looked at Rena. He thought about the last 3 months. The endless questions. The tea that was too sweet. The little dragon girl sleeping on his couch every night. Her mechanical fox curled up beside her. His shop had been so quiet before she came. So empty. Do I get any say in this? He asked. No. Despite himself, Taiho laughed. It was a real laugh, full and warm. The kind he had not made in years. Fine. But if I am your brother, then you have to do what I say. Rena raised an eyebrow. That is not how it works in my culture. It is how it works in mine. She grinned, showing sharp teeth that would have scared most humans, but only made Taiho smile. Deal. She clasped the pendant around his neck. The scale was warm against his chest, pulsing gently with something that felt almost like a heartbeat. Then, before he could react, she hugged him. It was a fierce hug, tight and desperate. The kind of hug that said everything words could not. It said thank you. It said I will miss you. It said you saved me. Taiho, who had fixed 1,000 machines but had never been very good with people, awkwardly patted her back. Anytime, kid. 6 months later, a new establishment opened next to Yoon's repairs. The sign above the door said, Dragon's Rest Café, in elegant letters. It served strange alien pastries and human coffee and tea that was always too sweet. The owner was a young woman with sapphire scales and golden eyes. And she was always smiling. A small mechanical fox sat on the counter, greeting every customer with a cheerful chirp. Taiho complained about it constantly. He complained about the noise from the cafe. He complained about the strange smells coming through his wall. He complained about the customers who came to gawk at a real-life dragon instead of actually buying anything. He complained especially loud about the pastries Rena kept bringing him. Alien sweets that were too strange and too delicious and made him gain weight. But every evening, when both shops closed and the neon signs flickered on outside, Taiho would lock his door and walk next door to the cafe. Rena would have a table ready for him, with tea and pastries and a chair that was just the right height. They would sit together as the stars came out, watching the ships fly overhead, talking about everything and nothing. And sometimes, when the night was very quiet and the streets were empty, Rena would ask Bomi to play a recording. An old dragon's lullaby would fill the little cafe. A father's voice singing to his daughter across the ages. A song of love that death could not silence. Taiho would listen with his eyes closed, the dragon scale warm against his heart. He thought about his own father, gone these 20 years. He thought about the old watch still sitting in his drawer. He thought about all the things he had never said, all the words he had kept locked inside. Maybe someday he would record his own voice. Maybe someday he would put his own memories into a machine, so that whoever came after him would know they were not alone. But that was for later. For now, he had tea to drink and pastries to eat and a dragon sister who would not stop asking questions. Mr. Taiho, Rena said one night, why do humans put milk in their tea? It makes no sense. It makes perfect sense. You just do not understand. Explain it to me. It would take too long. We have all night. Taiho sighed, but he was smiling. Outside, the stars shone bright over Neo Seoul. Ships came and went from distant worlds. Aliens walked the streets beside humans, a galaxy of different species learning to live together. And in a small cafe next to a repair shop, a human and a dragon sat together like the family they had become, because that was what humans did. They fixed things. Machines, problems, broken hearts. They fixed things. And they never, ever gave up. And sometimes, if they were very lucky, they found family in the most unexpected places. The lullaby played on. The tea grew cold, and brother and sister sat together in the quiet night, watching the stars. It was, Taiho thought, a good ending. No, it was a good beginning.